The grand piano sat silent in the corner, until it became her weapon. Before you continue, hit that subscribe button right now. What you're about to witness is part of my exclusive collection of true transformation stories that I release only once a month. I've personally selected this story because it contains a psychological technique that the top 1% use to turn humiliation into triumph, a technique I normally only share in my $5,000 seminars. Stay with me until the end to discover how to apply it in your own life. Have you ever wondered what happens when someone pushes the wrong person too far? Our story begins on a night that seemed ordinary, but would change lives forever. A night when an arrogant millionaire's attempt to humiliate a waitress backfired in a way no one saw coming. It was a warm Friday evening at Ravello, an upscale restaurant nestled in the heart of Raleigh, North Carolina, where the elite came to be seen and the staff were trained to remain invisible. Among them was Ashley Parker, 28 years old, with tired eyes that had seen too many late shifts, but still held a spark that most missed. Ashley moved between tables with practiced grace, balancing plates of artfully arranged food that cost more than she made in a day. What no one knew was that inside this seemingly ordinary waitress lived an extraordinary talent, one that had been silenced by life's harsh realities, but never extinguished. The fateful encounter. The restaurant's double doors swung open at 8:17 p.m., and the atmosphere instantly changed. Blake Harrison had arrived. A tech mogul worth over $300 million, Blake was known for three things: his ruthless business tactics, his collection of luxury cars, and his sadistic pleasure in making service workers feel worthless. "God help whoever has his table tonight," whispered Emma, another waitress, as they watched the maitre d' lead Blake and his entourage to the best table in the house, which happened to be in Ashley's section. Ashley's stomach tightened. She'd heard stories about Blake Harrison, how he'd once made a waiter recite the entire wine list from memory, only to order a beer, how he'd left a 5-cent tip with a note saying, "A small amount for a small person." As she approached his table, Ashley felt his cold gaze assessing her, not as a human being, but as another object to be used for his entertainment. "Well, what do we have here?" Blake's voice carried deliberately, ensuring nearby tables could hear. "Ashley." He read her name tag slowly, as if tasting the syllables. "Tell me, Ashley, when you were a little girl, did you dream of carrying plates for important people, or did you have larger ambitions?" His companions snickered. One woman in a red dress rolled her eyes but said nothing. Ashley maintained her professional smile. 7 years in the service industry had thickened her skin. "Our special tonight is pan-seared scallops with a citrus reduction. May I start you with some drinks?" Blake wasn't satisfied. He ordered the most expensive scotch on the menu, then turned to his friends. "I always wonder about these people, these placeholder people. What do they think about? Do they have hopes, dreams, or are they just here?" The words struck deeper than Ashley expected. Placeholder people, as if she were merely occupying space until someone more significant came along. What Blake Harrison couldn't know was that Ashley Parker hadn't always been just Ashley the waitress. Once she had been Ashley Parker, piano prodigy. From age 5, when her fingers first touched a keyboard in her grandmother's living room, music had been her language, a language more natural to her than words. By 12 she was performing Chopin's nocturnes at regional competitions. By 16, she had been accepted to a prestigious music conservatory. Her mother's cancer diagnosis, the mounting medical bills, the choice no teenager should have to make: pursue your dream or save your mother. Ashley chose family. The conservatory scholarship went unused. The hours once spent practicing scales were given to hospital visits and extra jobs. By the time her mother finally went into remission, the acceptance letters had expired, and the family savings were gone. So now at 28, Ashley carried plates instead of playing concertos. She worked at Ravello, not just for the tips, but because of the beautiful Steinway grand piano that sat in the corner, played only by hired musicians on weekend evenings. Sometimes, when closing up alone, she would sit at it for just a moment, her fingers ghosting over the keys without pressing down, remembering. Blake's second drink arrived, and his focus returned to Ashley like a predator, remembering its prey. "Tell me something interesting about yourself, Ashley," he demanded as she set down his glass. Surely there must be something beneath that uniform and forced smile. The table went quiet. Nearby diners glanced over, uncomfortable, but unwilling to intervene. "I play piano," she said quietly, the words slipping out before she could catch them. Blake's eyebrows shot up, his lips curling into a delighted smirk. He'd found his entertainment for the evening. A pianist. How charming. He turned to his companions. Our waitress is a pianist, everyone. A regular virtuoso serving our dinner. He looked back at Ashley, his eyes glittering with malice. Well, there's a piano right there. Why don't you play something for us, maestro? Ashley's heart dropped. I'm working, sir. I couldn't possibly. I'll speak to your manager, Blake interrupted, already looking around for the restaurant supervisor. I'm sure he'll agree that entertaining an important customer is part of your job. I really don't think, unless Blake's voice lowered, but remained loud enough for nearby tables to hear, you're not actually a pianist, unless that was just something you made up to sound more interesting. The restaurant had grown quiet now, all eyes on Ashley. Perhaps, Blake continued, leaning back in his chair. You're exactly what you appear to be. Nothing more. Something cracked inside Ashley, not because of the request to play, but because of the dismissal in his tone, the assumption that she was nothing, a placeholder person. For years she had buried her music, convinced herself it was a luxury she couldn't afford. But in that moment, facing Blake Harrison's smug certainty that she was insignificant, Ashley heard her grandmother's voice from long ago. Your music isn't just for you, child. Sometimes, it's the voice that speaks when words fail. Without another word, Ashley turned and walked toward the piano. The Steinway gleamed under the restaurant's soft lighting as Ashley approached it, each step feeling both like an eternity and an inevitability. Blake's triumphant chuckle carried across the room. He thought he had won, forced the waitress into an embarrassing public failure for his amusement. The restaurant manager appeared at her side. Ashley, you don't have to do this, he whispered. Yes, I do, she replied, not looking at him. For me. As she sat at the bench, Ashley's hands were trembling. It had been almost 2 years since she had played on an actual piano, not just the worn electronic keyboard in her apartment. 2 years since she had played for anyone but herself. She placed her fingers on the cool ivory keys. What should I play? The question flashed through her mind. Something simple and safe. Something to just get through this humiliation. No, her eyes closed, her breathing steadied, and then Ashley Parker began to play Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2. The first notes were soft, almost tentative, like footsteps testing frozen water. But as her fingers remembered their purpose, the music grew, building with a power that seemed impossible from her small frame. This wasn't just playing, this was storytelling. Every note carried the weight of her journey, her mother's illness, dreams deferred, years of standing on tired feet, serving people who looked through her. The piece swelled with longing, with struggle, with the particular pain of having greatness within you that no one sees. The restaurant fell into stunned silence. One of Blake's companions, the woman in the red dress, closed her eyes, a single tear tracking down her cheek. An elderly man, at a nearby table, reached for his wife's hand, holding it tight as the music washed over them. And Blake Harrison sat frozen, the smirk wiped from his face, replaced by an expression of disbelief. As Ashley reached the thunderous climax of the piece, her body swayed with the music, her face transformed. In that moment, she wasn't a waitress playing the piano. She was a pianist who happened to be wearing a waitress's uniform. When the final note faded, the silence was complete. For 3 heartbeats, no one moved. Then the room erupted. Applause broke out like a summer storm, sudden, powerful and cleansing. People rose to their feet. An older gentleman near the window wiped his eyes unashamedly. One of the kitchen staff had come out and stood in the doorway, hands clasped over her mouth in amazement. Ashley opened her eyes, momentarily disoriented, as if waking from a dream. The ovation washed over her, but her gaze sought out only one person. Blake Harrison remained seated, his face drained of color. For once in his life, he appeared completely at a loss. His companions had joined the standing ovation, leaving him isolated in his chair. When their eyes met across the room, it was Blake who looked away first. As Ashley returned to her duties, something had shifted, not just in how others saw her, but in how she carried herself. Her steps were lighter, her spine straighter. She had reclaimed something that night, something essential. Diners stopped her as she passed, pressing business cards into her hand. My daughter studies piano at Juilliard, one woman told her. She needs to hear you play. I run a small recording studio, said another. We should talk. Blake's table was subdued when Ashley returned to deliver their main course. His companions made a point of thanking her warmly, while Blake studied his plate with unusual intensity. Finally, as she turned to leave, Blake spoke. That was unexpected, he said, his voice stripped of its earlier arrogance. Ashley paused, considering her response carefully. Mr. Harrison, she said quietly, the most beautiful symphonies often come from the people you never bother to truly see. He looked up at her then, and for a brief moment, something like genuine humility flickered across his face. 3 weeks later, Ashley Parker gave notice at Ravello. The owner, who had witnessed her performance, personally tried to convince her to stay. He even offered to make her the restaurant's regular pianist, 3 nights a week. But Ashley had made her decision. The night with Blake Harrison had awakened something that couldn't be put back to sleep, not her musical talent, which had always been there, but her courage to pursue it. One of the business cards pressed into her hand that night belonged to Elizabeth Winters, a respected music teacher at the local university. After hearing Ashley play, she had offered her a scholarship to complete her long-abandoned music education. It's never too late to become what you might have been, Elizabeth told her. Blake Harrison never returned to Ravello, but 6 months later, when Ashley gave her first public recital at the university, a massive arrangement of white roses arrived backstage. The card read simply, "To the woman who taught me to truly listen." BH. Ashley placed the card in her program book and walked onto the stage. This time, she wasn't playing to prove anything to anyone. She was playing because it was who she was always meant to be. The lesson: what can we learn from Ashley's story? The world is filled with people who will try to define you by your circumstances rather than your capabilities. People who see your current situation and mistake it for your potential. Ashley's triumph wasn't just in proving Blake wrong. It was in reclaiming the truth about herself that she had allowed to be buried. Ask yourself, what talent, what passion, what essential truth about yourself have you set aside? Maybe you haven't had a Blake Harrison force you into a moment of reckoning. Maybe you need to create that moment for yourself. Your symphony is waiting to be played. Don't wait for someone to challenge you to claim your greatness. The piano is there. The keys are waiting. All you need is the courage to sit down and begin. If Ashley's story resonated with you, like this video right now. Then comment below with one word that describes the talent or dream you've been keeping silent. Your comment might inspire someone else to reclaim their own purpose. And if you haven't already, subscribe for more stories that will transform how you see yourself and your potential. Next week, I'll be sharing the 3 psychological techniques Ashley used to transform humiliation into triumph, techniques that you can apply in your own life. Remember, the most powerful person in any room isn't the one with the most money or the loudest voice. It's the one who knows exactly who they are and refuses to let anyone else define them. Your story matters. And just like Ashley's, it's waiting to be heard.